This week, a task force dedicated to fighting anti-Semitism reportedly decided to sever ties with the conservative Heritage Foundation. It comes after the think tank's president, Kevin Roberts, defended Tucker Carlson's interview with a far-right anti-Semitic activist. This infighting has laid bare a growing schism within conservative circles over how to address anti-Semitism. William Brangham reports.
Nick Fuentes, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I wanted to meet you.
The interview, which lasted over 2 hours, was posted late last month and has been seen over 20 million times. The conservative commentator Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, the 27-year-old hard-right influencer with millions of followers known as Groypers. Fuentes is known for his open racism.
White people have a special heritage here as Americans.
His misogyny, like when he wrote, "Your body, my choice," after the 2024 election.
The whole political system is just based around women never being accountable for any of their choices.
And his overt anti-Semitism, ranging from Holocaust denial to his belief in a global Jewish conspiracy.
A big challenge to that is organized Jewry in America. I don't think
the interview with Carlson drew quick, sharp condemnation from many in the conservative movement. Ben Shapiro.
Dude, Israel wishes that they could get all the Jews in order. It's so funny because one, Jews love to argue in general, and two, if that was the case, there would be no need for like unlimited amounts of Zionist propaganda baked into the collective consciousness of young American Jews, basically from like J camp all the way until college. Everybody loves to argue. Yeah, I know, I'm joking, but the meme is 2 Jews, 3 opinions.
Editor of the conservative Daily Wire wrote, "No to the Groypers, no to the cowards like Tucker Carlson who normalize their trash."
Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic.
But Kevin Roberts, head of the Heritage Foundation, defended Carlson. Heritage is the influential conservative think tank behind Project 2025, and which has long supported Israel and America's support for it. Roberts argued attacking Carlson was a distraction.
The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right.
Roberts faced a strong backlash, including from staffers within Heritage, and calls for his resignation. He later apologized and denounced Nick Fuentes specifically. But the controversy has revealed the ongoing challenge of balancing different factions within the MAGA base. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham.
For more on this, we're joined by Arno Rosenfeld. He's an enterprise reporter with The Forward, that's a Jewish news outlet, where he writes the Anti-Semitism Decoded newsletter. Thanks for being here.
It's so funny to see this. I'm sorry. I know this is a terrifying time for a lot of Jewish Americans, and to them, I say, welcome back to the fight. Jewish Americans, by and large, have been considered white in the same way that, like, Italians have been after experiencing forms of discrimination. And a lot of people are going, oh my God, this is terrifying, this is dangerous. And I understand why you think it's terrifying and dangerous. And it's like, yeah, this is where we've been. Like, I'm white as and even having the name Hassan as a dude who's white as even having the name Hassan is enough for many people to just be like, you are a radical Islamist fundamentalist terrorist who also simultaneously wants every American to be transgender and homosexual, which is in direct violation of your Sharia law principles. And that's because you're doing taqiyya. Right now, the debate is basically the whiteness of Jews. That's what's being discussed on the right. And that's the reason why a lot of people are freaking out. And to which I say, to the likes of Ben Shapiro, what the did you think was going to happen, dumbass? Why did you think that this coalition would hold as you kept pumping racial animus over and over again, assuming that people would not actually directly hold the broader Jewish religion responsible as they have in the past? So dumb.
Arno.
Thanks for having me.
So this interview for Tucker Carlson, who's a former Fox host, a mainstay of conservative media, to invite a known Holocaust denier, a white supremacist, and Nick Fuentes onto his show for an objectively friendly interview. What does that moment represent? Why would he do that?
And like the question once again also revolves around why the is there not this level of endless pontification on the likes of Randy Fine, for example, or any number, or Tommy Tuberville, when they say America's becoming Islamic Mohammedan jihad central. Because when Nick Fuentes says like, oh, the America's being hypnotized by the organized Jewry, everyone's like, whoa, hold on now. That's pretty fucked up, which I agree. It is fucked up. It's also anti-Semitic. But how come nobody has the shred of smoke for any number of different animals who are being just as racist towards people of different backgrounds, towards black people, towards brown people, towards Muslims? What's up with that? You can't tell Americans that like some forms of bigotry are actually A-okay and then assume that Jews are going to be spared and they're going to be permanently considered white. If anything, this kind of back and forth actually fuels the anti-Semitism conspiracies, because the average person goes, wait a minute, I can be racist to everybody I want, but not the Jews. How dare you? There must be a reason for it.
Is that shift, is that illustrative of a larger split or divide within conservatives?
Absolutely. I mean, Trump has historically supported Israel, but there is a real dividing line there, and we're starting to see some breakaways in Congress, too. Folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene becoming more hostile to American aid for Israel. But on the right, especially, folks like Carlson, certainly people like Fuentes, join that hostility toward support for Israel with just overt anti-Semitism, tropes, conspiracy theories about Jews.
So then you have the statement from the president of the Heritage Foundation, right, stepping in to defend Carlson. What do you make of that?
So I think it was sort of, in some respects, an unforced error on the part of the Heritage Foundation. Nobody was actually asking them to weigh in here. And so the fact that Roberts would go out of his way to defend Carlson, not just as a friend, but as a legitimate voice in the conservative movement, and his decision to interview Fuentes as a legitimate political decision.
These are part of the reason why I always think it's so ridiculous when motherfuckers will be like, oh, Hasan, you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Semitic. We finally figured it out. After 12 years of advocacy against anti-Semitism, we figured it out. This 3-second clip proves it. There is a lot of motion in being anti-Semitic right now. And not only that, but also it is, unfortunately, because of how Americans operate, easier to be anti-Semitic and anti-Israel than it is to not be anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. That's just the truth. And it's something that I've been warning about for years. It is absolutely ridiculous. Is Carlson genuinely anti-Semitic? I think so. I think he's just the operative who reads the room and realizes that, you know, the popular base is infinitely more anti-Semitic than the Republican Party presents itself as. It's the same thing that I always say, like, Hasan, you're transphobic. It's like, brother, if I was transphobic, I wouldn't be couching it in like coded language. Hasan, you're misogynistic. It's like, yeah, okay. If I was misogynistic, I'd just be screaming for the rooftops about how women ain't. These are incredibly popular reactionary social positions. Many of you do not understand how broadly popular this is. There is no reason to shelter the public from your bigoted point of view if you are bigoted. Like, there's no reason for people to hide their point of view at this point.
Decision alarmed a lot of people because I think there are folks who recognize that Fuentes might be growing in influence, but he's on these dark corners of the internet, and you can't really police those very well. Carlson was booted from Fox News. He's also independent right now. But Heritage is still a very influential gatekeeper and policy voice within the MAGA movement in Washington, D.C. And so if it's not just Carlson as a more mainstream voice than Fuentes, bringing Fuentes along, but then it's Heritage giving their stamp of approval to Carlson, I think that's what scared a lot of people. They started thinking, oh my gosh, where are the gatekeepers? Who's going to stop this open anti-Semitism and animosity toward Jews from entering the political mainstream?
So what about that? What about the keepers of that firewall, as it were? Because you have seen people like Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz and Ben Shapiro come out against Nick Fuentes unequivocally. But now you have him being hosted on a show with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah,
is he existing?
All the goats. Nobody gives a about those people. That's the point. They're cooked. They're doing the same thing that they did to MAGA in 2015 to the America First Groyper initiatives now. I do not see a world where they successfully pack this up, because if you have developed a movement off of shitting on every marginalized group, and that is your North Star, as it is the Republicans, why wouldn't they also do that to the Jews when Jews, for fascists, have been the historic enemy for Christians in general, even before fascism, was the target of tremendous enmity. And I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but this is Adam Friedland's take. He always would jokingly say, like, I'm scared of Jews no longer being considered white. But that's what's going on. Jews are literally white though, but the race is white. Dog, look, me too. I'm over here in the gallows looking at you going, first time? What do you think? Yeah, I know. You can be white and not be a part of the white in-group. Whiteness is a socio-political construct defined by what it's not. Its proximity to blackness, first and foremost, but also simply defined by what what the edges of whiteness are.
In the dark corners, or is that force and that voice more ascendant among conservative circles?
You know, I think what Carlson realized, and I think the reason that Carlson, and he said this in the conversation with Fuentes, brought Fuentes on is because those gatekeepers have not been able to stop Fuentes' rise. One thing that Fuentes talked about in that interview was his longstanding feud with Ben Shapiro, who he said for years has been trying to keep him out of the mainstream. And it hasn't worked. So we did see, I mean, the backlash was strong, and it does seem like, you know, Roberts had to apologize. Heritage has...
The left-wing Jews would say this is coming, but the bootlicking Jews are probably so pissed off right now. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm at risk of being genocided yet, but dude, being a minority is not lit. Even if it's not a Holocaust, imagine being allowed to forget what being a minority is like. Oof, pain. No, I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying, lesbo princess. Like, you know, welcome back to the fight. I mean, well, for many Jews in this community, obviously, you already were aware of this because you're progressive, but I'm talking about like the likes of Ben Shapiro, who have just refused to see the writing on the wall, and also, perhaps even more consequentially, his own personal involvement with normalizing this kind of hatred. Did you see the frat kid throwing pennies at Dave Portnoy? Perfect example of this. Exactly. I was going to get to that in a second. Hold on, let's keep going.
Talked a little bit of this back. They've certainly been receptive to the criticism, but the fact that it would even happen in the first place is a sign of how much the discourse has moved.
I also want to point out, President Trump has met with Nick Fuentes before at Mar-a-Lago. He said he didn't know who he was or what he stood for, but he also met with Kanye West, who has been anti-Semitic and pro-Hitler in some of his remarks. That was years ago, though. Is there something different about this moment?
I think that is a part of how we got to this moment. So I think this is the culmination of years of these trends. I mean, Donald Trump in 2016, I think, really called the bluff of a lot of Republican politicians who'd been hinting at various things but hadn't said them openly about immigrants, for example. And Fuentes, I think, has called the bluff of...
That's so funny. Dude, that's just literally, it's not calling the bluff. It just means like being more racist. Like, yeah. And also being pro-Hitler. There's no like, I don't know. There is no like, ooh. All these Republicans are like, ooh, can he say that? No, like they were like, oh, hell yeah, brother. But that's the thing. Like this was always the maximalist position. The more fascist you become, like, of course, you're going to eventually go back to, you know, the OG. Do you think this anti-Semitic escalation would benefit Israel for promoting their ethno-Nazi state? No, I don't think so. I think Zionism is over. It's already outlived its lifespan. It's in a vegetative state. I think it's done. However, how it comes to a close is entirely dependent on how a lot of these advocacy networks actually try to manage the death of Zionism. Many of them don't even want to recognize that Zionism is dead. At the end of the day, someone could just simply say, what the fuck are you talking about? You're over here talking about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, which was horrifying. Meanwhile, the current Holocaust is going on, and you're saying you're doing that for Judaism. What do you do to that argument? The Randy Fine, Nick Fuentes phenomena, the Randy Fine versus Nick Fuentes argument will always be the most prescient reason for why there is no like real moral standard here, and it's just people simply trying to hold on to previous restrictions that actually worked in the past. Nick Fuentes loves the old Holocaust that took place and most likely wants to let it happen again. If, you know, he had enough power, maybe he could do that. But there is currently a Holocaust going on right now, and Randy Fine is openly promoting it, right? But we don't think about it like that. Even people in this chat will probably go, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that because, like, you know, that's state violence that's taking place. It's like, yeah, what do you think the Nazis were doing? State violence. That was also normalized through a long period of dehumanization of both Jews and all of the enemies of the Third Reich. So if a society doesn't look at Randy Fine as like an absolute monstrous Nazi-style psychopath, but wants to warn against Nick Fuentes, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work because people are just going to be like, what do you fucking mean? I'm allowed to say whatever the fuck I can about Mexicans, about trans people, about black people, about women, but I can't say nothing about the Jews? Why? That's the question. And you have no answer for that. I mean, I do. I talk about it all the time. It's because, you know, it was cynically weaponized. Jews and Judaism was cynically weaponized to defend the interests of Israel, which is, of course, completely aligned with the interests of the United States of America, you know, and there was some back and forth and times where Israel stepped out of line, but it was still ultimately important for America to continue its allegiance with Israel because it's, you know, it was a bulwark against communism, an espionage center. I mean, unfortunately, this is true. Being a pro-Israel Jew has made any condemnation of Nazism absurd. He lost the moral high ground. You truly have no leg
Fuentes
to stand
and Tucker.
on.
But first, I'd like to show the audience this clip where Nick.
The thing is, people who are pro-Israel don't understand that, though. But the problem for them is there are more people who are anti-Israel than pro-Israel now. You see what I mean? So if you're in an environment where everyone's pro-Israel, like in the media, in most corners of the media, or in, you know, Washington, D.C., you're like, what the f***? Like, these guys are making these comparisons. It's heinous. How dare you compare the Nazis to this beautiful state of Israel? Like, they might not be pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinians in general, but they're so anti-Israel because of Israel's actions and because of Israel's entitlement and arrogance and demands for unlimited fealty and unlimited loyalty and unlimited political cover that for the average person, they go, the f***? It's either all of it or none of it. You know, you can't. And I want all of it is what a lot of Republicans are saying.
Fuentes is playing Grand Theft Auto, and he runs over a character who appears Jewish and says, that was Ben Shapiro. And then they play like a 3-minute clip from a 7-year-old stream where I'm giggling and saying, ha, 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 I think I just ran over Ben Shapiro. Ha, ha, ha. And then everybody boos. Then the audience goes, boo. They go, boo, boo. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. You people cheer for genocide in real life. We have reached, by the way.
I can't even shit on him for saying this because I verbatim said this. It's a Rick and Morty quote, but I think it's still a banger quote. And I have used that in the past as well. I hate that, like, anyway, let's continue.
The pinnacle of fake outrage. Talk about fake outrage. I can't wait for my Megyn Kelly interview. You've called Jewish people fat pigs, slobs, disgusting animals. Only Ben Shapiro. In fairness, it was more than Ben Shapiro. We have reached the pinnacle of fake outrage. So let me get this straight, Megyn. Megyn with a Y. Let's get this straight, Megyn. There's a genocide going on right now in Gaza. People are being shot in the back of the head. Starving, hungry people on the brink of death are traveling miles by foot in a war-torn area to get food. They're shot in the back of the head. Children are being shot in the head. Prisoners of war are being raped to death. Refugee camps, evacuation zones are being bombed directly. Civilians murdered. You're showing a clip of a video game? That's cartoon violence. You're showing a clip from a video game from Grand Theft Auto.
Like, we all obviously are negatively primed towards Nick Fuentes because he's a booger-eating, white supremacist Holocaust denier who also happens to be gay and Mexican, but that's besides the point, even though it's like kind of antithetical to white supremacy. But to the uninitiated or someone who does not give a fuck about anti-Semitism, as many people don't, they hear this and they go, well, this makes sense. That's the worst thing that you can ever give your ideological opponents, an honest argument, because he's not wrong. He's a Nazi piece of shit who's cynically, I think, using the prestige that he's getting from being an anti-Israel voice to advance a dangerous agenda of anti-Semitism. But in this moment, when he says, oh, you guys are complaining about me like playing a video game and simulating the murder of Ben Shapiro, when you're also simultaneously defending Israel's genocide, like real genocide, real starvation of children. You have no leg to stand on is true. This guy's a Nazi. Why are you playing this on stream? There's people that don't know him and think he's cool. Brother, for many years, I refused to utter the mention of Nick Fuentes for that reason, because he had a, albeit limited, platform. As a matter of fact, I'll give you guys one inside baseball moment. There were numerous times when Ethan Klein wanted to actually make fun of him for going on a date with a cat boy and like that. Back when we had the Leftovers podcast, I was like, are you out of your mind? No, we're not covering him. It doesn't matter. Even to ridicule him, we're not covering him at all. We're not giving him any breathing room. We're not giving him any platform whatsoever. And I actually vetoed that over and over again. But unfortunately, some of my other ideological opponents who claim to be liberals may or may not have sucked his penis, and also simultaneously openly delivered them a fat platform and also additional media connections, and even promoted Nick Fuentes and even talked about how Nick Fuentes owed them so much for their new career.
Oh, and Fuentes' treatment of me is so bad. I don't understand. That's something he'll have to learn and grow. Not to sound like not to be too self-aggrandizing, but like Fuentes should be worshiping me, because I am literally I was the only lifeline that he had to like being able to breach like mainstream political conversations. Like I represented a huge potential opportunity to him, and he just was so bad faith in the way that he treats me. It's unbelievable. I don't know why the do that. Like he should have been so conciliatory towards me, and I'm not looking for that. I'm not asking him to be my bitch or anything, but for him to be like relentlessly bad faith against me all the time, I'm like, bro, who the are you? Like I can put you on a stream in front of 14,000 people. Like I'm giving you your phone number to like Adam22 so you can go to a show. Why the would you like burn my shit so hard? Like you're so
Yes, I'm talking about sex pestiny. Oh, we were debating. There's no reason to debate people like that have very limited platforms at the time. And then he was resilient enough to work his way through the ranks and claw back after tremendous amounts of deplatforming, claw his way back into relevance, found himself in Kanye West's orbit at a time when Kanye West was also going through a manic episode and screaming Heil Hitler all over the place, had dinner with Donald Trump and kept pushing and pushing and pushing, sending his little groypers, the ones that at least can go outside, to Turning Point USA events, infiltrating every facet of the Republican Party, and basically creating a media environment where like any Republican under the age of 35 is basically aligned almost entirely with his politics. And lo and behold, you got a real crisis on the right now, and he's getting a ton of high-profile media coverage. So it's too late. This is PBS NewsHour. Tucker Carlson's interview with anti-Semite Nick Fuentes exposes rift among Republicans. He's getting profiled. There's literally a New York Times article right here. Who are the groypers? A word associated with the right-wing pundit Nick Fuentes and his followers is suddenly part of the national vocabulary. You guys, you can't just shove your head in the sand and hope that this problem goes away. If once it gets to a certain level, you have to at least be aware of it. And the final reason, I think, like the major reason why he has elevated his profile to a national scale is because of Israel. He was both anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. Some anti-Semites are pro-Israel, or many anti-Semites are pro-Israel. He happened to be anti-Semitic and anti-Israel because a lot of old school Nazis, I think, could correctly point out the ridiculous allegiance that the United States of America has with Israel to basically say, look, it's the Jewish state. This is how the Jews are, over and over again. And he has a lot of experience in that front. He has a lot of experience in on Israel. And while the same dumb liberals who were in my chat going, how dare you criticize little old Israel after October 7, partially also because I was a, Muslim with the name Hassan criticizing Israel after October 7, I ate that non-stop. And while all the liberals were focusing on my ass, whether it be the ADL or whether it be the same sex pest that allegedly sucked Nick Fuentes' penis, every single one of these groups that were just like actively hounding me every day of the week, calling me a terrorist, calling me an Islamist fundamentalist. He was in the sidelines doing whatever the he wanted to, pumping out content, reaching those very same stupid ass liberals who may or may not have known about him with a somewhat more progressive sounding message about Israel. And he built built back his fan base piece by piece. And here we are. Just remember, the ADL did not speak about Nick Fuentes after October 7 one time. Not once. Isn't that crazy? until recently, until the whole, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes collab happened. And now they're freaking out.
We're supposed to be offended. We're supposed to be shocked. That's supposed to shock our conscience. Randy Fine says all Palestinians are demons. Kill them all. Kill them all. I laugh when children starve to death. That's
Yeah, you're just taking the blue pill, kid. I know.
Congressman Randy Fine. Are you going to show that screenshot before you talk to Ben Shapiro? Are you going to show those screenshots? Is that noxious, vile, horrific, monstrous? Are we even going to talk about that? Are we going to sit there and complain about a video game? What's next? Call of Duty? We have reached the pinnacle of ridiculousness. And if you think that this is helping you, Megyn Kelly, you think this is helping your cause? Think about the problem that they have on their hands. They say millions and millions of young men are following Nick Fuentes. How do we get them to stop? Oh, I know. We're gonna get a blonde mom. We're gonna get a rich white woman. We're going to get an affluent blonde white woman to concern troll about a video game. He was playing this video game and he killed this character in his video game. You think that's going to get everybody back on board? That's the recipe for winning back the young guys? 15-year-old young guys are going to watch that and say, oh my gosh, I love Nick Fuentes, but then I saw that. Fuck out of here. Get
Do you not understand? Why do you think for years and years, anti-Zionists like myself, like Sam Cedar, for example, have talked about how the conflation between Zionism and Judaism is a dangerous one? The conflation between Zionism and Judaism is a dangerous one. One, because it's false, and two, because you're basically telling people that all Jews love Israel and Israel is doing all this violent shit for Jews in general, with the idiotic notion that it never would turn around, that people would never actually be anti-Israel. It's so stupid. And now that the majority of people are anti-Israel, of course they're going to be like, all right, well, I guess I'm anti-Semitic. It was so stupid. Whoa, man, token Jew much? Also, you can't talk because you're Muslim and not Jewish. Can't believe you've done this. Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. Constantly saying like all Jews that were anti-Israel were tokens.
Yeah, so Adam Friedland, who's the example of a good Jew, he's one of the good Jewish approved list here.
Yeah.
Why'd you even say that? It's like, bro, he's playing the token card.
Wait, so you're saying that Jews don't want ceasefire?
All Muslims that speak out against Israel are violent terrorists who love to do anti-Semitic acts of violence against all Jews, both in the Western world and also in Israel. You made it so that there was only one line of discourse that people actually got. This is what I mean. This is what we mean when we say the conflation between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism was always a dangerous game, because if people actually realized that Zionism was a dangerous ideology, a fascist ideology, or that Israel was a violent endeavor, a criminal entity, then people would go, okay, well, maybe they would say the things that they're saying on TikTok comments now about how, oh, the painter guy was right. Oh, the small hat gang is up to no good again. That's how we got here. That's how we got here. Congratulations. Go back and listen to my Oxford speech where this is what I warned people about. Jewish people in America have been talking about the fears that they have about like Holocaust-style anti-Semitism coming back, and they're in a time when like there is unlimited anti-Semitism, like actual unlimited anti-Semitism, and these main guys that are supposed to be defending Jews are still running around attacking people who aren't anti-Semitic, but they're anti-Israel. You know, if you're not going to focus your priorities, like what are we doing here? You're not going to shift your priorities to like actual anti-Semites. You don't give a shit about Jews.
Also have you evaluate the conversation that has been going on for more than a week in Republican circles about Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and the platforming thereof.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you asked. It reminds us that neither side of the spectrum is intolerant from, or immune, from anti-Semitism.
He's still talking about spectrum, the left anti-Semitism. Oh my God.
Intolerance happens on both sides, and specifically here. Look, it's not just that the interview with Nick Fuentes that Tucker Carlson did was so repellent, although it was. Tucker Carlson has been laundering hate for years, specifically.
Part of me is excited that he's like finally going after Tucker Carlson, partially because like they'll cook him. They'll destroy him in a way that I never can. That's the thing. Like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson will eat his ass alive. They'll destroy him in a way that I never would be able to.
Anti-Jewish bias, Holocaust deniers, ugly anti-Zionists, and all kinds of people.
Ugly anti-Zionists.
That's the problem here. Now, I will tell you, I was pleased that Kevin Roberts called out Nick Fuentes' disgusting anti-Jewish hatred. But why would you run cover for Tucker Carlson? The Republican Party has got to figure this out. People like Ted Cruz, Dave McCormick, Lindsey Graham seem intent on doing so, and that's a good thing. I hope things work out the right way, just like on the far left. The anti-Zionism and the anti-Semitism of some fringe folks on the progressive side also need to be worked out. Let's hope that that happens on both ends of the spectrum, Major, so a strong center can reemerge where everyone is accepted.
Jonathan, very quickly, Kevin Roberts, you mentioned a significant figure at the Heritage Foundation Action and Heritage Foundation. Would you like to see in this moment President Trump weigh in on Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes?
I think it would be a positive development if the president, who has...
Oh, if the president calls out his dining partner, Nick Fuentes, I think everybody knows what's up. I don't think liberals should have this donkey on their shows. I don't know.
Jewish grandchildren, has a Jewish daughter and son-in-law who's done so much to support the Jewish state of Israel and frankly support the Jewish community.
Dude, it's so funny because like, dude, if your job is to like stop anti-Semitism from growing and you are personally developing anti-Semitic tendencies and opinions in the broader population, you should probably quit. Like, you should quit your job. The biggest L of all time.
On college campuses, no one has a stronger voice on these issues than him. If he weighed in, it might be very, very powerful.
Quit your job. Yeah, transparency and accountability are critical for democracy, and no elected official should be afraid of it. He has spent more time on Zoran Mamdani than Nick Fuentes. Meanwhile, the entirety of the right is just like, how Nazi can we get? Ridiculous. Oh, this was the other thing that I was going to show you about the rise of anti-Semitism. Here's Dave Porkboy doing a pizza review in Starkville, Mississippi. And of course, once again, Dave Porkboy, conservative guy. What did you think was going to happen? This is unacceptable for the record. It's horrible and gross and totally repulsive, unacceptable behavior. But just remember, like, these are the dudes who literally leaned into this for everybody else. And now he's on the receiving end of a hate crime because, once again, in the eyes of many, all of a sudden, it's being called into question whether Jews are white or not. They're losing the white status.
Hey, fuck the Jews! Fuck you, Dave.
And he threw coins at him, too.
Not cool.
You can take her out.
Oh my gosh. That was awful.
Hey, you pussy! You!
Go away. Hey.
Why the coins is an anti-Semitic trope that, like, you know, Jews love money. That's not that sort of thing. Aren't you anti-Semitic? Yes, dude. I'm the most anti-Semitic if you ask the ADL. Number 2 most anti-Semitic. Candace Owens was number 1 most anti-Semitic last year. Second, I was a runner-up. Couldn't win that one. Was Nick Fuentes even on that list? He must have been, right? But the top 3 was me, Candace Owens, and Greta Thunberg, chat.